At 18,000 feet in the Himalayas, melting ice revealed something that military records insisted never existed. In 1943, Allied command documented every aircraft lost crossing the Hump route. No C-47 transport was missing from their logs. But there it was, twisted aluminum scattered across a glacier that had kept it frozen for 80 years. The Hump airlift operation was perhaps the most dangerous air mission of World War II. Spanning 530 miles from India to China, pilots had to navigate over the treacherous Himalayan mountains, where peaks soared beyond 20,000 feet. This perilous route became the only lifeline to Chinese forces fighting the Japanese after the Burma Road was captured. Official military statistics documented over 600 aircraft lost along this route. Every crash, every missing plane, and every lost crew was meticulously recorded by Allied command. These records served as the definitive account of what happened during this deadly airlift operation, providing closure to grieving families and maintaining military accountability, which is why this discovery is so baffling. According to those same meticulous records, this particular C-47 shouldn't exist. Families were told their loved ones were accounted for. Military historians considered these records complete and accurate for 8 decades. This single discovery now challenges everything we thought we knew about the Hump operation and raises uncomfortable questions about what else might have been hidden. The Hump operation began in April 1942, following Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor that severed Pacific supply routes. When Japanese forces captured the Burma Road, China's last remaining land supply line, General Claire Chennault desperately requested an emergency airlift operation over the Himalayas. The operation launched with woefully inadequate aircraft and primitive navigational equipment, yet became one of the most crucial supply missions of the entire war. At the center of this operation was the Douglas C-47 Skytrain, the workhorse of Allied transport. These twin-engine aircraft could carry 6,000 pounds of cargo or 28 passengers, but they weren't designed for the extreme altitudes of the Himalayas. Every day, crews pushed these planes well beyond their design limitations, knowing that any mechanical failure at altitude meant certain death. The dangers these pilots faced were extraordinary. Unpredictable weather systems with winds exceeding 200 miles per hour could appear without warning. Towering peaks often remained hidden in clouds, and with no radar navigation, pilots flew by instinct and dead reckoning. Japanese fighter patrols regularly hunted along the Burmese corridor, and the extreme conditions caused frequent mechanical failures. Yet despite these challenges, the flights continued day after day. The military's record-keeping system was just as rigorous as the mission itself. Every flight was meticulously logged with departure and arrival times. When aircraft went missing, they were immediately classified as lost, triggering search and rescue operations whenever weather permitted. Families typically received notification within weeks of a disappearance, providing at least some closure during an unimaginable time of grief. Which makes the recent discovery all the more perplexing. Climate change has caused Himalayan glaciers to retreat at unprecedented rates, revealing secrets long buried under hundreds of feet of ice. Local guides began reporting strange sightings of metal birds emerging from mountainsides as the ice melted away, prompting a specialized mountaineering expedition to investigate. The discovery team consisted of experienced climbers familiar with World War II wreckage sites who spotted aluminum debris at 18,000 feet during an expedition. After recording GPS coordinates, they quickly realized something was wrong. This location didn't appear in any crash database. The investigation faced extreme challenges from the start. The thin air required careful acclimatization. Weather windows for safe exploration lasted mere hours, and the debris field was scattered across treacherous glacier terrain. The remote location made helicopter access impossible due to altitude and wind conditions. As the team meticulously documented their findings, an impossible realization emerged. The wreckage was clearly identifiable as a C-47 transport plane, with partially visible serial numbers on engine components. Military historians consulted the records and confirmed what seemed unthinkable. There was no documented loss at these coordinates. This plane officially didn't exist. The breakthrough came when researchers recovered a complete engine block serial number. Cross-referencing with military production records identified the specific C-47, manufactured in 1943 and assigned to the China-Burma-India theater. But official records showed this particular aircraft had completed its service. It was never reported lost. It was never supposed to be here. Forensic analysis of the wreckage revealed more clues. The debris pattern indicated a controlled flight into terrain rather than a mid-air explosion or catastrophic mechanical failure. There was no evidence of combat damage, suggesting the pilot was attempting an emergency landing when the crash occurred. Most remarkably, the cargo hold remained partially intact despite 80 years of exposure to the elements. What they found inside changed everything. The aircraft carried medical supplies bound for the Chinese 14th Air Force, ammunition boxes with Chinese markings, and radio equipment that wasn't standard for typical transport missions. Most tellingly, they discovered a manifest in the cockpit, documenting a mission that appeared nowhere in official logs. But the most haunting discoveries were the personal effects. Identification tags for 4 airmen, personal letters never mailed home, photographs of families back in America, flight logs showing departure from WWII, India. These weren't just artifacts. They were the last traces of 4 men whose final mission was erased from history. By piecing together these clues, researchers reconstructed what likely happened. On March 15, 1944, this C-47 departed from WWII Air Base carrying classified supplies to Chinese resistance forces. This was an unofficial, unrecorded black mission. When weather deteriorated rapidly over the high peaks, the aircraft crashed, and when it failed to return, the entire mission was denied. The families were simply told their loved ones died on routine transport duty. The truth reveals a systematic failure of accountability. The Office of Strategic Services, predecessor to the CIA, was running parallel operations with poor coordination between military branches. Classified missions weren't reported to families, and records were deliberately falsified to maintain secrecy. The human cost was devastating. 4 airmen died on a mission that officially never happened. Their families waited decades for closure that never came. Chinese forces never received the critical supplies they were carrying, and the truth remained buried under bureaucracy and ice for 80 years. These men had names and stories. Pilot Lieutenant James Morrison, 24, from Iowa, was a newlywed. Co-pilot Sergeant Robert Chen, 22, was a Chinese-American translator. Radio operator Corporal Michael O'Brien was just 19, from a Boston Irish family. Crew Chief Technical Sergeant William Bill Jackson, 28, left behind 2 children who would grow up never knowing their father's true sacrifice. For decades, these families were told their loved ones died in a vague transport accident, with no specific location provided. Some suspected a cover-up, but had no proof. Children grew up without knowing the truth of their father's heroism. The letters found at the crash site make the deception even more heartbreaking. Morrison's letter to his pregnant wife about coming home, Chen's bilingual letter to his parents, O'Brien's mention of a special mission to China, and Jackson's letter containing photos of the children he would never see grow up. The revelation's impact on surviving family members has been profound. Pride mixed with anger over decades of deception, finally understanding their loved ones died as heroes, and closure after 80 years of incomplete information. This discovery raises troubling questions about what else might be hidden. Estimates suggest over 200 aircraft remain missing along the Hump route, and climate change is revealing more crash sites every year. Each discovery potentially challenges the official record. We don't know how many other classified missions were never acknowledged. The site is now protected as a war grave. Remains have been recovered and returned to families for proper burial. The Chinese government has honored the crew's sacrifice to their cause. A monument stands at the crash site with the inscription, "At 18,000 feet, they rest where heroes belong." The glacier kept their secret for 80 years, but climate change became an unexpected truth-teller. 4 young men finally came home, and the Himalayas still hold more stories in their ice. What shocked you the most about this forgotten piece of history? Tell us in the comments below. Hit subscribe now. These heroes waited 80 years for their story to be told. Don't let them be forgotten again.